lot of
Okay.
them.
I took a side picture too. Nope, that was the other thing I took pictures of. No, I haven't had a chance to yet.
Okie dokie, y'all. We're gonna get rolling to land use and planning. Monday, May 12th. Nope, that's last week's, let me hold the right
That was the
agenda.
Tuesday.
Sorry, I was going for other things. I'm gonna actually pull it
Oh
up.
my God, this is amazing tonight.
Okay. For May 27th. Can I get a motion to approve the minutes?
I move to approve.
I'll second them. That's how I wrote them.
Good job.
Awesome.
I wrote them
Okay.
they were fresh.
There we go. Okie dokie.
Send them a please.
There we go.
Funny.
Okay. So we have resolution number 3697, setting provisions for the use of Pride Park. We also have Brian Hanna in the room, who I imagine has an opinion on this.
Did you have a good weekend, Brian?
So if you guys would like, we can give Brian the floor
Yeah.
for our current resolution and things that he might not like about our current resolution.
Oh, the resolution is up to you guys to set.
Mhm.
You set it, well,
But again, we want your
Your
input
opinion.
because this affects you more than anybody.
Right.
So,
The input is, we got a bunch of calls, a bunch of photos, I know Chelsea had an opportunity to drop by, Cynthia had an opportunity to drop by. The feedback I got from Cynthia was, that is not what I thought we were approving.
yep.
No.
It
I'll
was-
let Cynthia speaking to that, but, and my feedback as I was dealing with all these calls Saturday morning was how fortunate this came up before we're taking action, so if there's any tweaks or revisiting,
Now's the time to
this,
do it.
this is a wonderful time to talk about it.
Which is why we're looking at this, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I also got an opportunity to go to the park and see it. From the conversations I had with the folks that were there, they did not have a good, and again, part of it is because this hasn't been finalized and put
Right.
through.
Of course.
So there wasn't an understanding of what they're supposed to do. And
Are you going to
Again.
grab the one that we approved to give them?
yeah.
awesome, that would help me substantially.
Yeah.
So, again, essentially, I think, yes, they were outside of what we want to see in that space.
Yeah.
There was boats stacked up on trees, there were skis stacked up on
Yeah,
planters,
that's what I
they
figured
had
about.
racks all over the place, boats out on the lawns. And from what we have written, it's a 10-foot by 10-foot space.
Yeah.
So my thought process with it is having some sort of, these are the areas that you can
Boundaries,
use. Like
Run out
you're,
map.
yep, on a map, so that way they have a very clear understanding of where they get to be.
Correct.
I don't necessarily have an issue with them being in the concrete pad area. I prefer that we don't move picnic tables and keep that area for seating and accessible, and like the actual green space accessible. As long, and it really, there's only one spot where I can see that making sense, and it'd be right at that entry as you're coming into the park from the side street versus Broadway. Awesome, thank you.
So,
Red lettering, too.
I will share that the thing that seemed to be the most concerning or controversial is in our applicant, it says, no applicants may restrict or block use of benches, picnic tables, or right-of-way, which I think is actually in that verbatim, right, Brian? Isn't that the language that we,
is it?
What we have here
Put it in
is,
approval.
please note, the condition of use for this park seating area needs to remain open for traveling public, and a clear path needs to be maintained on all sidewalks.
And did that happen?
it depends on who you ask. So I have, they sent pictures, and I have them, that said, you can absolutely get to the benches. I had other people say, well, you could get in there, but I feel like I was invading their space, and I certainly couldn't
The
go there with
display
a
case
stroller.
was right there.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you could sit there, but
Did
you're
they-
literally sitting with your
did they-
face directly to,
Yeah, and
But
your
then
knee,
that would block the right-of-way.
correct.
So they were blocking the right-of-way.
In the event that someone were sitting at the benches, then it would definitely be a blockage. My takeaway, and when we were first addressing this, was that, and I don't think I ever communicated it, but I just always assumed, again, assuming, was that, yes, it would actually be in the green area, and those benches, the paved area, the section in the front would always stay open. That is not the part of the park that we were going to allow usage of. I was always assuming that, yes, right where that first picnic table is, to where people can access it from either ends of the park, that was still open. And then I just assumed the 10 by 10 spot in the front, or in the green space is where they were using. And again, like I said, I didn't really communicate that very well, but I just, that front area with the flowers and the benches and that
Which one is
walkaway
it?
area was
Just the
not
one with the
up
awnings
for usage or private usage.
Brian had a simplified
Oh.
version, is that the grass area is okay, the concrete area is not.
And that's, 100%, that's what I agree with too.
But
But I
I
wouldn't-
will say that council is not all on the same page.
But I don't think, like, I'm kind of with keeping it at that 10 by
Yeah.
12.
Well,
10
they
by
could-
10.
10 by
Whatever
10
they can fit in
in
there,
the green space.
in the green space. It has to be the green space.
okay.
I
And it
feel like
can't
that.
interfere with the planters, it's gotta be really,
Well, and I just felt like it was kind of a slap in the face when I drive by and there's a tent right there, and then there's skis leaned up against flower beds and like.
And that's where I got, it's like, it's one thing to have your tent. It's
Yeah.
another thing to literally have stuff, all over the
gathered
park.
all
Yeah.
over,
And
and
it-
trying to avoid the benches.
Exactly.
We didn't have anything in place for this.
No,
So
of
they-
course
they
not.
didn't
No,
have
absolutely,
any-
and that
No.
was the thing,
I
we
mean,
didn't have.
so-
Yeah, and that's-
They
it
didn't
wasn't
do
a slap in
anything
the
wrong.
face or anything, it was,
Yeah.
and they accommodated, if we
Right.
would've told them to move that rack, they would've taken that rack
Right,
out.
exactly, and
Yep.
that was where I was kinda like, okay, you know what, this is a great learning experience for all of us to kind of see like, how do we set the boundaries for this, you know, and like, now we know that there definitely has to be some sort of boundary, because it just felt like it was, looked like my.
We're having a
Anyway,
problem
sure.
with our parks,
Mhm.
and that's that their parks aren't open to everybody. You know, we're granting exclusive use of a city park, and there gets to a point where we're saying enough,
Mhm.
and this one happens to be downtown. Maybe we should just say, no exclusive use of this park except for the garden club that maintains it.
And we already have that. It's a non-exclusive use for when you reserve this
Period.
park.
Yeah,
That's how
We
we
don't-
have our resolution written,
Yeah,
is it's a non-exclusive use, but you can still utilize it,
right.
and we can still essentially be able to provide guardrails. That was
but see, it
the
says
whole
no
point.
exclusive use of Pride Park, but then permitted use. So is it exclusive use? No exclusive use, but there is permitted use. So-
Exactly.
So it's not.
It's one or
because
the
it's
other.
not- Well,
No,
no, 'cause
it's not.
the exclusive use is set, right
I mean,
there,
the
it says,
entire park.
exactly, it says no exclusive use of
Pride.
Yeah, it
we
means
just
that
set the
people can
boundary.
come in and out whether you have something set up there or not. That's the non-exclusive factor.
Yeah.
The permitted is what actually allows for us to put guardrails on it and still allow people to be able to utilize some of the space.
So number B here would be permitted use will be restricted to a 10 by 10 section
Yeah.
on the grass.
And I think we don't even necessarily have to change the resolution. It's just, it will be permitted to a 10 by 10 foot section as, and
That
if we
does
want
not
to change the
interfere.
language, what I would say is, because if there are changes to the park and the spaces, as permitted by the city. So they have to essentially get that 10 foot by 10 foot.
This is the city.
But
That's you.
I understand that, but by city staff, that's what I'm meaning. No, listen to me out. Like, on this, when someone puts in an application, they are given a piece of paper, it's like, this is the 10 foot by 10 foot space. I don't necessarily want to have that designated in the resolution. So then that way, if Brian feels that he needs to change that down the road, he has the ability and the power to do so.
At a base level, I don't want to put staff in the position, and it has nothing to do with, it just, in general, you put staff in the position of applying, not of making decisions to allow or not allow. And I'll remind you, we've had staff that if it was in staff's position, they'd say, there's no motorcycle rally this year, because I don't like them.
Mhm.
And so, for a lot of different reasons, we
That's-
can't go there.
No, I think that this is absolutely a place where we can go.
Okay.
unless, or we can have an appendix to this where there's a map.
Amount.
Because I think that realistically, if you wanna change that appendix, great, but there should be, the city staff should have the ability to be able to see this resolution and be like, okay, they can have a 10-foot by 10-foot space, they can't block they can't block the walkways, and they can't block the benches. But again, happens when that part changes? What happens if all the grass goes away and now this resolution is no longer applicable?
Then it'll be time to update the resolution.
Right.
But my concern is, when you say not block the benches, I have pictures from the folks setting it up that says, absolutely, we are not blocking the benches.
They weren't.
That is not the same takeaway
Sure.
that people have. They said, yeah, I'm not gonna, so here's the bench and here's the tent. Yeah, I'm not blocking the bench. I can sit there, but yeah,
Mhm.
this is not inviting.
No,
Okay, then I think there should be an appendix with a map.
agreed.
Rod?
I've heard two opinions. One, you don't want the picnic table area utilized, correct?
I want it to be accessible.
Okay. Are the picnic tables, can they be moved
Yes.
to accommodate whatever the event is?
So here's part of my other concern in terms of moving picnic tables. One, where are they gonna move to? Is that the city's responsibility or the person using the space? Two, wear and tear on that green space.
Okay.
So if we have those benches moving regularly, are we gonna start tracking out the grassy spots?
Right?
Or we're gonna have tents that are tracking out these grassy spots?
I've heard there's maybe an area identified that would be preferred for,
Yeah,
it
what,
used to happen all the time. It's one specific area off the concrete,
Mhm.
away from the grass and the picnic tables.
okay,
Do you need to be specific to just say, this spot,
yes, that's,
X feet by X feet, is the spot for an event, period? Then that leaves the front area open, it leaves the back area, grass area,
Open.
protects it from overuse.
yep. I mean, and that's what I'm getting at, is that
Right.
there should be a map with designated locations.
And
I
I
agree.
heard the disagreement on two spots too. I heard not on the concrete, absolutely on the concrete.
And that's the thing, is I think that there is space there to be able to do it on the concrete, it's just extremely limited to where that is, so
Yeah.
if, I'm not gonna draw.
Well, they did it
draw
right
on
in
your
the middle of the
application.
concrete.
I just feel like that concrete space, in all honesty, I don't think that if you're pushing a wheelchair through that concrete space, that wouldn't have been feasible at all this weekend.
Well, again, I think that what you need is that 6-foot space beside it, 'cause like, that's essentially either have a 3-foot personal space or a 6-foot public space, right? So that's,
But it's
I'm gonna-
just simpler just to say, nothing on the concrete.
but I'm just also gonna say that there is accessibility on the concrete. And I like the idea of keeping it on the concrete, because again, less wear and tear on the actual park
Well,
space.
that's what they did, they set that little
But they also,
display right on the middle of the concrete.
oh God, I really wanna go on a field trip.
Right. They just walk away.
Yeah, they set that display right in the middle of the concrete.
And that's what I'm saying, is it shouldn't be right in the middle of the concrete.
Well, it still left room for people to go around both sides.
But when I'm,
Are you thinking like on the back part of it? Hang on, I'm
so
pulling
there's
up
the
a- I
tree
took a
where they
picture, hang on.
leaned, there's the tree where they leaned up that paddleboard.
Yes,
There's no bench space right there.
Yeah,
If you had your tent backed up to that section, it would still create walkways through the front and still have accessibility in this main concrete area where most of the benches reside.
okay, so I'm looking at it right now. So there are the benches towards the front, and then there's a pad in the back section.
Yeah, so,
Well, here, come look, because I don't wanna, kind of where the helmets were set up.
yeah.
Okay, so I'm looking at,
You
this
want
is
to
where I
know-
did not.
Basically, right where those, yeah, exactly where that is
that's-
and where those are.
So basically, see where the pad line right
Yep.
is right there?
Mhm.
On that back portion,
Mhm.
I'm okay with that.
Totally, that's what
I'm
I'm
okay with
recommending,
that.
yep.
Is public
And
space,
especially,
but
and I'm
this
okay
is
with
still
having
someone-
gravel
what I think
too,
is an important,
but
right?
I
don't
just wanna
count.
limit the amount and also make it accessible for concrete.
And I'm with you on
So,
not
I mean-
wanting to wear down the grass, I get that, but at the same time, like, that front and center, like, that, excuse my language, that was not, like,
No.
that was kind of, and this irritated me too.
That irritated me too, yep.
That bothered me, and then then all the way, like, minus the 10 by 10, there's a boat way back there.
Yeah, there's 2 boats back on the grass.
I was like, what?
There was this here, and then originally there was a tent. I didn't take photos.
I saw the tent, and then when I came back, the tent was down.
Yep, and then
So
they
then
had
he
this
moved
stuff
the
up
tent
over
and
here,
went-
this
Yeah.
stuff up on the
Okay.
building. Like, again, the planters being covered, that's what irritated me. The boats being out on the grass, it was the sprawl of it.
It was the
It was the lack
It
of
was-
containment.
It was like my teenage
Thank you for
prom.
saying that,
Yeah.
I didn't see that.
It was give an inch, take a
It
mile
was.
situation.
Well, we definitely need
Got a lot of
to
public
do,
comment and feedback on
Did
that.
you see what I'm talking about,
Wrong.
Brian?
Okay.
of what's actually for exclusive use and what is for the public use,
Well, again, it's
period.
all non-exclusive.
Okay.
But.
Not a fan of this front area being utilized at all, right? Okay, but you see how there is kind of delineated with
So,
basically
yeah,
where the
these would
pad is?
be, so you have your planters, you
So
have
there's
your
a line
picnic
right here,
tables.
kind of, right?
You need actual
On the back
measurements.
portion.
Do we have,
On that
like,
back pad
a
section.
measure of this part?
I feel like
No,
that,
I went overhead.
I don't mind that section
Of
being
course.
utilized. Because the benches
Actually,
are
Mike
more
does have it.
forefront.
Yeah, we do have
These
it.
are all forefront,
We do
but
have it
then
measured out.
that back
Okay.
section back
I
here,
don't have it with me right here.
along with
Okay,
some green
'cause that's-
space, I don't mind.
Again, I think that
utilizing-
there's
they can use
more
that.
than just
if they
one
want.
Yeah,
option
but that
on
front
this.
section
And I do think
isn't
that
covered
it's just
with
when they
trees,
get
the
that
back
application,
section
they are
is nice
given
and
this
shaded.
map.
Well, and that's where I'm
And
like,
if you want
if-
council to do
like,
that,
they
that's
can
fine,
use-
I just think
I get
that.
what I'm saying.
Right.
staff
I'm just
is
trying
able
to
do
find a
that.
compromise.
Behind that.
Right,
So,
behind here.
I would
During the
refer
Fourth
to
of
you on
July,
this because
people
you're the
aren't gonna wanna
manager
sit
of
in
the
front
staff,
section.
and you're trying to.
Well,
They're gonna
during,
wanna set up
during the
the
Fourth of
tree.
July,
Yeah, and so like I said, if they're
it's
applying
a
the
public,
rules, I'm okay.
or
with
where
that.
the
So
city
Yeah, they
doesn't,
can't.
I
they
like,
can't utilize it.
I
So
Right.
can't utilize it during the
I've
car
heard
show, and I
two
can't utilize
areas
it
of
during all these other big
disagreement
events.
for- and
So I almost feel like,
it's
yeah,
part of
should
the
we
conversation.
include Memorial
One,
Day weekend
how
as one
much
of those?
in the stamped or not, and then everybody
Considering what
was
we
against
do,
it
we
all
Then
and
we're gonna
take
have to set a
over.
date in
So those are
there
the two
every
things
day that we don't
that
want
aren't
something
in there.
going.
Right.
My
Well,
prediction.
no, and I don't think
My
it's
prediction-
Absolutely in there when you have a
Like,
10
we're
by 10 foot
specific
space.
Memorial.
Oh, no,
And
I
that's how
think a
it's
10 foot
written.
by 10 foot space
Car show.
solves the sprawl.
Harley.
And to be fair, they didn't have that.
Exactly,
And
and that's
we-
why
and
I wasn't.
we had one year, we had the,
And we could-
what was
and
it,
we
the
could
summer
add-
town?
that was
Yeah,
either.
I know,
But
But
even
we
then,
could
that
add
was,
some,
I don't know.
no sprawl.
that would have
And
been
to avoid sprawl,
useful.
it'll be contained in a 10 by 10 foot
I don't think they
space
have
or something.
I mean,
I think it says.
I'm trying to find a happy medium to
But-
where
And it's,
They can use it.
it's
they can use
Okay,
it, but.
I'm
not
gonna-
the other 5 you have to convince.
I'm gonna rein this in.
Okay.
So, we need a map. That's what I'm hearing as a consensus.
I
Agreed.
agree.
Do we feel that we can have it in multiple locations, or is it just gonna be on green space?
I think one location, and if it's a green space, do they have, sprinklers back there?
Good question,
You can't put a tent back there with their sprinklers.
depending on where the sprinklers are.
Yeah,
So-
they're gonna hit them for sure.
So,
Whatever they're gonna do, they're gonna hit those sprinklers, because that's Murphy's Law.
I want to ask a clarification. When she said green space or one space, she meant reoccurring. Is there one 10 by 10 spot? This is where all activity will always be?
Yes.
And because that's what I heard her ask, but I think you just said, no, they only get to be in one spot. But is it the same spot every time
I would say
for
yes.
every group?
There is
Okay.
one spot available for use outside of the public. To me, that's the easiest way to make it for Brian. It's the easiest way for everybody else. I think that we need to say, this space is available for exclusive use.
And the awning, they can use a sandbag to hold the awning down.
Well, we'd have to
They
make sure that they
have
totally understand that,
And,
because,
and that comes up with lots of park uses, like, do not drive stuff in the ground. And
Yeah.
most people know, don't.
Right, it's not your
is
ground.
that in the land use
I think there is wordage in there.
about,
Yeah.
Yeah, no
because we've
driving-
had that happen
No
in
driving stakes, no.
Lions Park,
Yeah, I mean, so if they wanna set up an awning.
You can use
you
as
can
long as
use
you sandbag it.
sandbags, just not, okay.
I mean, I'm not opposed to just taking Pride Park off the list.
I'm not
You
either
know, it-
opposed to it.
Well, and if we
We
can't
have
agree, I'm,
identified
I'm
it,
okay with
that
that
we
too.
want to save this space for the general public every day that it's available.
would that,
We don't.
would that make it easier for
We're
you?
not gonna let anybody
of course it makes.
have have a permitted exclusive use if, but then you get the art walk, well, we just wanna set up a little table with, set it up. It's first come, first serve. If you wanna set up a little table for the art walk that goes on downtown, and you wanna have a little interactive paint art deal, and you want that spot to be for, communication, so people have questions, they can come to you,
It's just not
How
gonna be
about it?
exclusive. Yeah.
just stay off, please stay out of this area, set it back, set up on that picnic table behind the planter. I mean, the park is so small, once you start getting into spaces, there's planter, picnic table, planter, picnic
Picnic
table.
table.
I mean, so you get back there's only two spots. But
Correct.
really, a 10 by 10 is gonna work without getting into the planters. And then if you get up front, I think no matter what we end up doing, you're gonna have, well, we think it should be turned this way, and we think it should be turned this way, and this, you know, the 10 by 10, well, I don't know if I could get a stroller through, I mean, just,
Okay, so.
And frankly, okay, tell me, Mr. Mayor, the sidewalks in front of a business, the ones that are closest to the buildings, we have in the past seen lots of people use those for hanging a rack of clothes, so it's
Mhm.
rather for their use, correct? Or are we ignoring that?
As long as they don't interfere with a wheelchair access, with an ADA pathway down the
A
sidewalk.
5-foot pathway down the sidewalk.
Right,
So what I'm saying is even with the art walk, they could set up their table in front of some of the beautiful,
Planters.
planter, no, they could set it up on the sidewalk. I mean, why does it have to be Pride Park? You know, they could go in front of any one of the art galleries and set it up there and then have their little things, and then somewhere else they could have the table for the interactive. Why do they have to be in Pride Park?
I wouldn't start promoting people to set up activities on a sidewalk.
Well, I'm just saying that space is available if the owner of the building, it allows it, because we see it all the time, where the owner of the building sets something up out there. We used to have, the group that would sell, he's laughing at me, flowers and all kinds of, vegetation. We see it all the time where they had plant sale. And they would come into our building and say, if you're not open on Saturday, we'd like to set up a table in front of your place and sell these plants. Yeah, sure, go ahead.
What I was actually laughing at is you were talking about setting it up on the sidewalk and this, that, and the other, is that one of the messages I got came subtitled, what sort of a shit show are you running here? So that's
Oh,
actually,
my
as
goodness.
you were describing this, that's actually what was
That's
running.
the shit show you were saying.
That was
But I'm
actually
saying
running.
that happens. We have the bakery cell that does the same thing. They set up next to a building. Why does it have to be Pride Park?
So,
Why not eliminate Pride Park for anything but the public?
to bring this back to some of our original conversations, part of the reason we wanted to ensure that this was still permitted use, that does not mean exclusive,
Mhm.
but the reason we wanted to keep it to permitted use is so we don't have a shit show. And so we don't have folks that are just first come, first serve coming in without guardrails. So that is part of the reason we wanted to keep this permitted, so that way when someone does want to set up just a table, it can happen without them being like, oh, yeah, no, you're welcome to use that space as long as this is, you know, it provides a process for them to actually have direct contact with the city and approval from the city to make sure that it's happening in the right way and that it's not interfering with general public. If it were a first come, first served situation, I would have concerns like, oh, yeah, no, you're allowed to use that without a permit. Now you have folks that are coming in and just setting up, and now they're getting yelled at by the city, or there's people that are seeing this from a public standpoint and be like, who let that happen? Or I was told I couldn't get a permit there, but I see that the Art Walk has their stuff up. So that's part of the reason we wanted to keep it as a permitted use, whether, and again, that doesn't mean exclusive use. It just means that it is going through a process, that there is insurance involved, and that they are given guidelines and direct correspondence with the city to make sure that they are doing it the correct way. Now, how we have that look, that's, I think, the bigger conversation of, is this going to be a table? Or is it now reducing it down a size? Is it now
That's what
only as allowed by the city building, or the, what title would you put on this one?
Well, this is just staff for now, is what we're
Okay,
gonna
so
call
put it on city staff. So city, like, what, it could just be that you have to get this approved by city staff to make sure that walkways, that it is still accessible to the public, and whether that means a 5-foot barrier in front of each bench. And that, again, reduces the accessibility substantially to where realistically, we wouldn't have situations like that, but we also could allow for people to have a table with guardrails. Does that track?
Well, see, then you've got the music people that set up.
Right.
They're not gonna apply for a permit, they're just gonna go down there, and everybody's fine with that,
The only time people get mad is when someone's selling?
apparently. Apparently, when it appears to be commercial use.
Mm.
But all of our parks at some point have commercial use in them.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I mean, it'd be,
So here's my question, would a commercial business be able to have first come, first served? So now they can come over anyway without having that correspondence with the city,
No,
without
because
having.
if there's commercial, it requires a permit. That's one of the things that says it.
guardrails.
Okay.
There's no pop-up commercial. Commercial requires a permit.
So then,
So I have two variations that I've heard,
uh-huh.
that I've kind of scribbled down. One of them is there will be no exclusive use of Pride Park. The rest of it is a first come, first served, but shall be done so as not to interfere with the benches, and you could even expand that to say stamped concrete area if you want to. Taking Chelsea's idea, there will be, permitted use will be restricted to a 10 by 10 section. They shall provide a site plan that shows that they won't be interfering with the benches, and staff signs off on that. So they could approve a site plan in advance. And
like
that's, and that, now that subjective is, I think that interferes or that doesn't interfere. That's, if you say providing a site plan that shows that it won't be interfering with seating,
Mhm.
that takes that subjective a little bit out of the way
And
from that.
walkways, yeah.
But there's still a subjective, if the person wearing that hat says, no, that interferes because I couldn't get in there with a stroller or a wheelchair or a, but that's how we can kind of go, we could do something with your idea. You could say you have to put a site plan in advance
Mhm.
that's signed off of before they go. That way there's no Saturday morning surprises.
Well, isn't that something that's already required with,
site plan?
yeah, no, okay.
No, really?
Most of it does.
They can just do, okay.
Yeah, I mean, whenever if you are having a funeral, a wedding, whatever, you set it up how it suits you for that use. I'm not gonna tell you, well, you gotta have chairs facing this way, and you have to get married over here, or, I mean,
Yeah.
they're responsible for setup and tear down. We're not, the city's not gonna get involved with that. If you need seating, you're responsible for bringing the chairs. If you need, but we're gonna give you the use of this area. I mean, the gazebo is the most popular one.
Of course. So we do need to have exactly what is available in Pride Park for use.
I'm kind of with, like, I kind of like the idea, though, of having, because I'm thinking back in other times that I've ever had to use a venue in any other state or any other place, you know, in my adult life, and I have had to submit a plan, and I have had to submit, this is where I'm gonna have chairs set up, this is where I'll have tables set up, this is where I plan to have a tent set up. And usually it's a quick glance over and they sign off on it.
Mhm.
I don't see how that would be any more challenging than them having to,
Yep.
you're like, here's a map, show me on this map what you envisioned.
And the reason I like that, the site plan submission, is it does give the flexibility to, again, when you see that someone you approve it, something comes in, it's like, oh, this didn't quite fit.
Mhm.
We can now expand on, or like, again, expand some of that restricted areas. Because the way I see it is you have a map like this, I mean, not like this, much better than this.
That's pretty impressive.
It looks great to
Pull
go,
it out.
yeah.
Yeah.
But,
The scale.
and then essentially you have buffer zones of what is,
Available, what is not.
Available.
yeah, so you have like these restricted spaces. And then you have blocks of,
Right,
this is where it's worked before.
yeah, right, exactly. And we're not
And
asking
it-
for a detailed
No,
scale, drawings, measurements,
no, we don't need
and
it
all that.
engineered, you know?
Like, there's, like, and I've done it before, to where it's like, I literally drew a square, tent, chair, bench, table, bouncy house, like that's in the realm that I was utilizing.
So
and not
let me ask-
someone other.
Let me ask two questions. First off, I'll pick on Brian as our designated staff right now. So if this has the wording that's here, but it says provide a staff plan that shows it won't interfere with amenities, as that's here,
Access and amenities.
with access and amenities,
But,
is that too vague? And then the second question is gonna be, what if you guys don't agree with him? If he looks at those pictures and says, yes, people can get to those benches, and you say, no, I'm not gonna sit there because it doesn't feel inviting. So there's almost a two, what further does that need to do? Let's say, provide a site plan.
provided, but Pride Park is the only one we're having issues with.
Okay,
Exactly.
I mean, if someone,
as of now,
Finn Park,
right.
we have gatherings down there. You're gonna have a brunch after a wedding.
Mhm.
I don't really wanna know where you're gonna set up the table for you to serve food. You're gonna utilize the picnic tables. If you bring in lawn chairs, where are you gonna set your lawn chairs?
Mhm.
And
And it's
there's
not-
so many different varieties
Right.
Of parks.
of uses that, and everybody sets it up differently.
Correct.
Pride Park seems to be the only one we're having this issue. So if we wanna do a site plan, then we need to designate what spots are available. If I say, well, I wanna have mine where the middle picnic table is, can I move the picnic table? I
Okay.
mean, we're getting into conversation now where we don't wanna move picnic tables. Well, where can I set up?
Mhm.
Give me the options of where I can set up, and if it works for what I wanna do, then I'll do it. If it does not work, then I will find a different
Doesn't work.
spot to do it.
That's why I'm saying that we need
Agree.
exactly, Pride Park, this area is available with a permit, period, this area.
And really, it's very limited where
Very
there are
limited.
areas. The
Yeah.
two-
Agreed, very.
The two picnic tables, and then right at the backside of the concrete are the only three areas that, because the planters, we're not gonna let you set up in the planters.
No.
No.
So you're gonna set up in between, but if I might utilize that picnic table with what I'm doing, you know, maybe it'll be some seating, but can I scoot it over? Can I move it? Do I have to fit my 10 by 10 in between the picnic table and the planter and the building? I mean, how,
Yeah.
you know, what am I interfering with? Well, someone said they wanted to sit at that picnic table and they couldn't get to it. Well,
There's another perfectly good picnic table right next
but
to it.
that one was full.
Move over, yeah. Oh, no, I see exactly what you're saying. Like, it's a no-win, like, not everyone. is
That's why
gonna-
we go back to no use at all. This is a public park downtown,
Okay,
period,
so,
done,
but the whole conversation that started this was the
art walk.
the art walk.
Well,
And they could set that up on the sidewalk in front of any one of the galleries.
Or they could even
This-
utilize one of the,
It started
with,
when
the
they had
first
a
time.
sales event during the car show.
That's
Yep.
what really
That's when
started.
it started.
Yeah, last year,
And so that was where we eliminated Pride Park usage during any
event,
event.
downtown event.
And so do we,
But then there's a timeline.
yeah,
I mean, they had their stuff in a month before the car show.
Sure.
I'm not gonna guess on,
No.
well,
What they're gonna do with
you
it.
know,
Yeah,
that's
no,
how it played out, was,
Right.
hey, look, they came in, they filled out the application, they were a month before your deal,
before the car show
so
was.
Yep.
we're gonna have two events going.
I know, yeah, exactly, like they played the rules, it's just.
I go back
No.
to, nobody
No,
gets
but-
to use it, except for the public.
I'm putting my nickel down that this is probably going to get tabled tonight for some additional discussion, but that's just a guess. I'm just,
You think so?
Yeah, I mean, in all honesty, it comes back to the teacher, I mean, it's like, if you guys can't play nicely with this, then.
You can't play
take
at
your
all.
toy away.
No one's playing with it.
That
And
was sort of
it'll
my
be-
theory.
It'll be set up to no scheduled use, I mean, no large events, but.
No permitted
like you-
use, it's a public park downtown for the public to sit at in the shade or in the sun, period.
The biggest issue is commercial.
The biggest issue is commercial.
The only issue is.
the only one that's been complained about is commercial.
That's
And
right.
I have,
The
Specifically
other
one.
things, the spontaneous
Well,
band, you know, getting together.
The art walk.
well, there's been
None of those
complaints
are
about
controversial.
protesters and all of that, but again, I'm not touching that one.
yeah, well,
Right.
nobody is.
So do you just say no commercial use of Pride Park?
But the art walk was, they wanted to be able to sell stuff if they were
So-
there.
The art walk is just, they're not selling anything.
It's informational and they're doing little art.
It's just information and interactive, an art deal.
Art
So
play.
they probably have, they might have an artist sitting there that you can come, maybe he'll go.
They were gonna have the
drawing here.
kids,
But to
you know,
me,
have a little project.
I mean, is something like that warranted an application?
And see, and that's where I'm kinda like,
That's where we're in that area of no use means, sorry, you guys can't do anything.
You can't plan on it.
Or, no use means, if it's a volunteer deal, you wanna sell Girl Scout cookies down there for a day.
For a day.
that,
I don't need a permit. Set up a little table, sell Girl Scout cookies.
Nonprofit.
and that's what we were wondering too with the nonprofit, or I'm
The
I mean,
thing
so-
is it, what, the issue you're having with could expand. I could say, Moosely Teas needs to have a once or twice a year clearance sale.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna pack all my stuff over there and put it up, 'cause
Oh,
it's
yeah.
got
But the way
good
it-
foot traffic.
The way it
And
sits
then-
right now, that's,
So
you're
the-
right.
Right, but is it appropriate for that area? I don't know.
So I'm back to the
Yeah.
commercial
It
then.
could expand, this problem.
See,
could
and
get
my,
bigger.
the big grief I have with that is why penalize someone for making money when someone else could be using that exact same space for a nonprofit venture?
Because it's a public
Sale.
park.
Yeah, it's a
And when they
public
take
park,
over a public park,
and that's what we're trying to avoid, is
it's
the
no longer
takeover.
available.
We're trying
for
to
the
avoid the
public.
takeover portion.
Yeah, but
But you're
again, like,
saying,
if
give
we
them a
can't-
little section to
Yeah.
take over.
No,
I'm just saying, keep it simple.
I'm just
Go
saying,
with
if a
this
band can come
principle.
in there and play music, why can't someone come in there and sell a T-shirt?
Or a boat.
They're
Yeah.
taking over just as
Or
much
overly
space.
priced
If we're
food.
talking about the actual use of space,
Overpriced.
that's what I'm trying to nail it down to. Just because someone's actually complained about the sales, doesn't necessarily mean that it's right that they shouldn't get to use it. It just means that we need to be able to put guardrails on it. Because again, that band will take up even more space than the guy selling 2 T-shirts. And the reason people get upset is because they're taking advantage of foot traffic, but end of the day, space is
But-
space.
That band isn't gonna be sitting there for 8 hours.
No, they're not.
That band's gonna sit there for maybe 1 or 2 hours and then disperse. Protesters aren't gonna sit there for 8 hours. They're gonna be there for a hot minute, well, that's one we're not touching. But, commercial use, again, it was there
All day.
Well, a nonprofit person going out and handing out pamphlets, they might be there for 8 hours.
Yeah, that's impressive. Yeah, again though, like.
But again, this is where I come down to, is now you're gonna have businesses that may have wanted to use that space, food vendors, people that have a hot dog truck.
But the hot dog truck doesn't go into the park. It
Well-
stayed,
It did, but doesn't mean it won't. It could.
it could.
And,
The hot dog truck should be on private property.
yeah.
I don't know.
This is, guys, this is wonderful. This is exactly what this is supposed to be, right? 6 people, no, 6 people sitting down and persuading their concerns, and this is wonderful.
If you wanna do permitted use, then when they come in for an application with Pride Park, when someone, whoever's doing it, emails the application to them, here's the site map
Mhm.
with the 3 locations that you can set up. You don't get to use all 3, pick one, and that's your setup.
I love that idea.
I don't know if I'd even give them the option though. I'm kinda down to, this is your location if you're wanting to use it.
But if it's
Yeah,
10 by
but-
10, it could be 10 by 10 here, it
We
could be
won't,
10
we'll
by
drop
10
the
in
10 by
middle.
10.
I
This
mean,
is your
so-
location.
So pick a location, this is the only location we allow set up within Pride Park.
Great.
Maybe it's the middle section where the picnic table
Right.
is, we leave the
Yeah.
picnic table in the back, the seating up front. This is the area we allow you, if you wanna sell T-shirts, you can set it up, you
Right,
can, you
right
can
here.
fill this area with T-shirts, people can walk through.
Agreed.
Yep.
You're not messing here, you're not messing back there.
Yep, just,
This is the
this
only
is
area.
it. This is
And
it. This is
maybe
the
it doesn't
only
have
area.
to be 10 by 10, maybe it's that
Exactly.
middle picnic table section.
I agree. Like maybe we're limiting ourselves with saying you don't need a tent.
And if it doesn't
Yeah.
work, they'll go somewhere else. That's not our,
That's
not
not
our
our
point
problem.
to say,
Yep.
what do we need to do to accommodate you?
No.
This is what we have available. Use it how you want in this area.
I
The
agree.
rest of it is, will
Open,
remain
public
open
access.
for public.
I agree. Yep.
Agreed.
And
Yep.
what I have heard is
Yeah, I think
universally,
that's what-
everybody's in favor of making sure that there isn't this sprawl that takes over.
Right.
price
Yeah,
point.
that was
So we
agreed on
have-
from the get-go,
I think
yeah.
if we just keep, like you're saying, like, I wouldn't give them, say, hey, you get option 1, 2, or 3, I'd say, option 2, right in the middle, this is your location, take it or leave it.
And so,
Okay.
it'll take a field trip, we'll have to go down there at some point,
Yeah.
let's look at it, say, okay, where do we want it? So from sidewalk to planter against the building, from planter to planter, this is the area that we will allow you to
Yeah.
set up.
And then Rod can bring Muesli Teas and
Sure.
set up shop right there. Agree? Oh my God, did we agree?
Mm-hmm.
I don't hear any.
I'm very content with it.
I wanna visualize.
We need a
So-
field trip?
We do need a field trip.
How this will be rewritten. Permitted use will be restricted to a designated space, or a space designated by
the
city.
city.
Yeah, by the city. Let us leave it by the city.
And just put designated space and then refer to the map.
I'm just gonna say designated by the city.
Okay, but you is the city.
Yeah, that's okay.
And we're designating it.
We don't need to say by the city, 'cause it's the whole thing.
And I think people will understand
Agreed.
when they wanna use it.
Right,
This
like,
is
this
the-
is the only place that you can use it, like, is it worth us going, getting
Is
the
this-
permit and everything, or
Yeah.
do we look
Is this what you
elsewhere?
want? Yeah.
Permitted use will be restricted to a space designated by the city that does not interfere with the use of its amenities, including benches or picnic tables, and must not be placed so as to potentially damage flower beds, lawns, or gardens.
I
See,
think the
see
flower
exhibit
beds,
A.
flower beds, garden, lawn stuff, but within that area, there might likely be a picnic table.
Right.
So what
But
we
that-
could actually do is,
So-
we could just remove the majority of that. The permitted use will be restricted to a space designated by the city.
Yeah.
Period, see the map.
And that picnic table, if I wanna scoot that to the edge of the sidewalk and then do all my stuff behind it, if that's the area we pick.
Right, exactly.
Or I move it towards the wall, and then I have from the picnic table to the sidewalk.
Yeah.
Whatever area we pick, but
Yeah,
in between planter, from sidewalk to wall. Picnic table is there if you need to move it,
If not,
maybe we can move it over by the other picnic table for temporary. I mean,
it is, I don't,
moving a picnic table a few times a year for an event is not gonna be any more damaging
than the foot
than
traffic.
the foot traffic in and out of the park.
Mhm.
Just don't put it on the sidewalk
Or the
or
road.
the street.
I'm trying to think,
Or-
when we used to cut off that section for like farmer's market and the Festival of Nations always utilized that section of the street back in the day. I remember specifically, because I was like, why can't we dance under the trees? And they're like, no, that's city park, that stays open. So we shut off the road, we set everything up in the street to where the park was utilized for seating and other people.
as a park.
Yeah, and I like, this is, I feel like this is probably the best compromise, is being like, this is the location, right
Yep.
here, take it or leave it.
And that'll be
If we
really
must
easy to
compromise.
convey to the Red Lodge Art Walk.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, look, it went through, because they know what's going on.
Yep.
It went through, here's the changes, this is the area that we're gonna set. You set up whatever you need to do your
Your
whatever,
art, your,
artwork,
yep.
your communication between point A and point B.
Yep, yep.
And
But I think a field trip so everybody can see
So
what
we
we're
all-
talking
right.
about, point
Yep.
A to point B is.
Right, and then we can, along with the application, here's your map, this is where it
Yep.
is, this is the guideline.
So I just added to item B, refer to the site map provided in the application.
Perfect.
so there's the application process and for
Mhm.
permitted use.
Yep.
And how far in advance do they have to submit it? Is it 30 days? or
60
something?
days?
They can submit it same day if there's
Same
something
day.
going on.
Oh,
If you
Yeah.
didn't,
If it's
No,
available.
That morning,
we get some short term, I mean, most people are pretty good, but every now and then something happens.
right, and most people are pretty savvy
Yeah,
to
they're-
knowing that it is a permitted, like,
First come, first served
right,
permitted.
whatever's on the
So
calendar, so we
if
wanna
there's
beat
something
that.
going on, sometimes we have multiple events. We got, ladies are selling their stuff down there, and then we've got the art walk afterwards, and I always say, communicate with each other, make sure that there's not gonna be any interference, and it's always, yep, we're gonna be out of here this time, they can have that, with
Yeah,
Lions Park, we do that a lot.
Yep.
There's stuff going on in the morning, there's stuff going on in the afternoon.
yep.
And in fairness, the reason we have land use permits is not for the city to make money. What we're doing is making money for the processing part. The reason that we have land use permits is so we can protect the character of the Red Lodge, of Red Lodge. I think, right? Am I wrong there? I mean, that's-
A little bit of character, but I think that's always it's more protect the actual space, protect the use of the space, and protect the public's use of the space.
I can buy that.
Does it adjust to all groups? Is that in the verbiage, like profit, nonprofit,
Yeah, this
and
would literally be
informational?
for anybody.
Okay.
You know, it could be someone who wants to come and read a book out loud for 2 hours. It could be someone that wants to sell something. It could be someone trying to spread information about a nonprofit. It could be asking for donations, what have you.
So that doesn't have to be in there,
Most of what
'cause
you
it's
said,
just
I
given.
can show up and do on spur of the moment, just if it's available, I could do it. Commercial is not one of those. If it's commercial, we require a permit.
Yeah.
And it goes back to protecting the character, public use, all of those sort of things is why we're doing it.
Okay, so I'm gonna add this resolution number now that we have one, and I'm already in here making edits.
Oh, this is up for action tonight.
It is up for action tonight. I heard that there's gonna be some proposed edits. I heard that there's a field trip coming up.
Well, I think the field trip will probably happen here in like 10 minutes.
Yeah.
John.
Very
You
quick.
gotta find a good map drawer.
What, Chelsea's
Great
a
one.
Mike
Do we some graph
has
paper?
one from the thing that we could get a copy of too, so.
Yeah, if we could get that, then we could doodle on it. Okay, so, anywho, do we all feel good about that? Updated language, permitted use will be restricted to a space designated by the city, refer to the site map provided in the application.
Yes.
If we must.
We must. We don't must, we are agreeing to that.
Each of you individually gets to choose whether you're on or not.
Yep,
Mhm.
That's
so,
why there's 6 of you. It's why trust board.
if we are happy with that, we can move on. Resolution number 3699, resolution to approve planting a live tree stand in Van Dyke Park.
I
That is
want
a-
to start with the first thing.
Okay?
Van Dyke Park was dedicated for use as a park for open space and trails.
Mhm.
Correct.
That's its dedication. It's open space and trails. It was already violated by the observatory that was granted by the last city council. Now, and actually, it didn't go through the routine that it should. It was agreed upon a certain size, and then that size practically doubled.
We are aware of.
Wait, let me finish.
Okay.
So, the MOU for that observatory, which is a permanent building, can be canceled within 30 days. So if the group disbands, which they do from time to time, even the Festival of Nations is gone. That observatory now is the city property, okay? So that 30-day thing bothers me, of course, on the MOU, but I think that's the way these work. Now they're proposing, because they chose a bad location for their observatory to start with, now they want to block the light by planting these big junipers, which I did some research, and they can grow to 20 feet tall.
I think they have to limit them due to
Yep.
the location
10
of the.
feet.
They said that they would top them at 10 feet, but they can grow to 20 feet tall. And they will be included in the resolution. That could be canceled in 30 days. Now the city is gonna have to top those junipers,
Or they just go and cut them down.
or they
To
just,
build it.
but I'm just saying, this park was dedicated as open space. Now we've got an observatory, now we've got a stand of trees. When I asked what happens about the lights when people pull into the side, are they gonna want more trees on that side? Because that will become an issue. It's my understanding that once the lights have blinded the whole observing, that it takes them 15 minutes to get back.
There's only one road on the side there that.
But they turn, so if you come from the airport and you turn towards Remington Ranch, that's gonna be hitting the side of the observatory. I'm just
Yeah,
against,
but the light, when they're driving, people aren't like parking with their headlights facing the observatory.
no, they're just driving.
Right, but it's, I mean,
They're driving.
unless they're going like 0.2 miles per hour, I don't know how that light would, my point being is that what they want is this strand of lights to,
Strand of trees.
strand of trees,
Mhm.
thank you.
To block the lights from the county.
But in my opinion, it's blocking the light, but it's also a
Blocking.
natural
It's gonna look like a
Structure.
barrier, yeah.
blocking,
It will definitely be a
Building.
barrier.
so I'm kind of like, it's a,
I just didn't like the
Well,
barrier.
that's
I went ahead and pulled what they look like.
oh yeah, I saw. I
And,
was
and they're
actually-
gonna be, it's gonna be a solid, so that's what you see when you drive down that road, is this big barrier of juniper.
Or a big, I mean, to me, I see trees,
I
which
do too.
I'm grateful for.
These aren't trees,
I see a living snow fence, and the drifting will be
a
there.
living snow fence,
Well,
yeah.
is it, and that's another thing,
I'm-
well, the drifting,
What
They
happened to
did
the
go through
open
and
space
made
and-
sure that it was far enough back to where it actually wouldn't create a drifting effect. It's from what I understand and what Mike Maples has said yes to as well.
And this doesn't require a unanimous vote from council, and if, nor does
No.
anything, right? So if
Right.
there's some of these that one or two members of council are opposed to, that's
It's-
cause a
and
problem.
here's another
The
thing
park
too.
was dedicated as open space and
Yeah.
trails, and we need to honor what it was dedicated for. Otherwise, first it was an observatory, now it's a stand of trees, what's next?
But the strand of trees isn't going to, it doesn't inhibit any of the trail systems, from my understanding. Like,
Maybe
it's
not, but it's still kind of an eyesore.
I mean, I think
Well,
it looks better than a building.
I agree.
Well, we already have the building, so.
Right,
Exactly.
and we can't-
We already have the building, and so we might as well cover it with trees.
I
Agreed.
just think that they made a bad choice to start with.
Okay,
Agreed.
so now this is,
And also, you have the wrong number on your thing, whereas a resolution 3549, it's 3459.
Okay, I can fix that.
Okay,
I just feel like
I'll own that one.
it's,
Yeah, I didn't type that, but.
A little trend.
And just let-
I
it's the
just-
lesser of evils. Is that a good way of saying it?
I
Like-
just think that if in fact they find that it's not a really good location, because of their, was it north facing, that sooner or later, they will find a better location for it.
And in the event they do that, here's the thing about a tree. I have a chainsaw.
I think what
I know.
Sandy's trying to say is like, let's not make it more accommodating and hope that they move.
There's that, and the fact that, to me, driving down there, finding this big old chunk of trees in the middle of nowhere, which is what it'll appear, just is weird. It's supposed to be open space. And yes, the trails people wanted trees in there, but not all clumped together. They wanted trees in there. They didn't want a big, barrier of trees.
So,
It kind of,
I kind of look at
10
it,
feet tall.
if those trees are there and the building stays there, I mean, we could reuse that building and put a porta potty near there or something.
It wasn't well-built.
Well, I mean, I'm
Yeah.
trying to think
Yeah,
that it's
it
there.
wasn't
Pretty well built.
It's there, it is what it is, like,
I just,
slapping some trees up, in all honesty, and seeing what I deal with just visually, like, I'll look at a tree all day long.
and I would too if it were a tree, but my problem is that it's 9 trees forming a brick wall. I mean, the only reason they didn't do a brick wall is because,
I
they're
remember-
expensive.
I think you did a good job of condensing your comments early on as you first introduced it. I will look forward to you doing a similar thing tonight, and I'll, if it gets too rambly, I'll contain it. Again, everybody doesn't have to agree. I'm
No,
fine
we
with-
know that.
I'm fine with discussion, that's wonderful, that's what this process is set up to
Right.
do.
So to bring it back,
It's up for action tonight.
it's up for action this evening. That is, as long as we feel good about what has been drafted. So we got the edit for changing the number to be correct.
Did did you add the maintenance?
Yeah,
I
so
did.
she said
So-
that's highlighted in yellow.
They have it
Yep.
as whereas it's a change of use for city-owned land, because that's what it is. I don't think, it says the MOU for the city of, Red Lodge, Steamboat, shall be amended to maintain the observatory to ensure public safety of visitors. Really?
That's how it's written.
How,
That's how it's written.
that's
I'm
the
not
way they
trying-
wrote it?
That's how the original MOU is written. So I only made amendments per the trees. I was not tweaking the MOU in any other sense of the word, even if there are things that probably could use tweaking.
Because ensuring public safety has nothing at all to do with any part of this.
So the new part is just, and the tree stand adjacent to?
Yes, essentially, there's 3 different amendments to the original MOU. And I put them in as you would any other contract. I added them for the full context of the sentence so people could understand where that was from. I also put designation of where in that MOU it is written. So, maintain the observatory to ensure public safety and visitors of the observatory facility during planned events which are held during the observatory. That was the beginning of that paragraph. It's the only reason it's included here. The term facility, as used herein, shall encompass the structure of the observatory, related observatory signage, regulated and controlled lighting at the site. And then I added, the only add to this is, and the tree strand adjacent to the structure. I just wanted to be sure to include that full paragraph so we had context of where that was coming from. Then the other amendment, or one of the other amendments
So
is,
this is what you added, so
yep,
I
so
need to make
I
sure
added
that-
number 12 to their responsibilities.
added.
The tree strand comprised of 9 Wichita Blue Rocky Mountain junipers are to be maintained by the Heroes of Steam Center, including maintaining a maximum height of 10 feet, pruning and regular plant care. If the trees require removal due to imposed health or safety concerns, that will be the responsibility of the Heroes of Steam Center to do so. The Heroes of Steam Center will be responsible for replacement if needed.
Okay, that's what I was wondering.
And then you
It's a
added number 10 as
replacement.
well.
And then I added number 10, and this was per what Mike agreed to. The City of Red Lodge Public Works Department will assist with the watering of the tree strand adjacent to the observatory for the first 2 years from when they are planted.
Was it 2 and not 1?
It was
Okay with
2
yours.
and not
There was
1.
2
Yep.
The 2.
I thought it was 1 as well, but I went back and read the
It was
proposal.
2 years.
So this was all just pertaining to the tree conversation. I included that full first paragraph to make sure that the trees were also included as a part of the facility. That was the big piece, because it refers to the facility throughout the MOU, and I just want to make sure that those same regulations are being followed for these trees. Again,
That they are
maintaining
responsible.
them, making sure they're responsible for them, making sure that something happens, some person runs into one and they scratch themselves, you know, that's the Heroes of
And they
Steam's
are.
responsibility.
And they maintain the 10-foot.
Yep, and then we also
Because
put
they
a
can grow to
full
20.
section for an actual maintenance for those trees. If anyone would like to see anything added to that, be happy to do so. If anyone feels that anything could be removed, we could do so as well. This is just per the conversations we've had and the presentation provided.
Agreed. And they did, I mean, yeah, Doug came in and did I thought, a great explanation of it
He
all.
did,
I
because
really-
he's a botanist. He knows
Right,
what he's
and
talking
I was very pleased having him there.
about. I just don't know why ensure public safety of visitors is in there at all.
So that is specific
In the
to,
event,
It's currently in the MOU.
correct.
yeah.
So that's something that we're gonna need to look at if we're gonna change the MOU.
We will be adjusting the MOU and bringing it to council approved, but drafting that is me, and now I have some guidance with some things to make
Well,
sure.
and that will understand you, that they're responsible for keeping the building up so it doesn't become a hazard.
Yeah.
You know, they are, but if they disband, it's the city that takes care of it.
And that's
And
when
we
you
might
can-
just put a fence around
And
it.
to be clear, it is,
That's
it is
not
already,
open space.
and to be clear, it is already city property. When they built
Yeah.
it there, it is
Yeah.
city property.
It is
That's-
city
That's why
property.
the MOU is being adjusted, because it doesn't really
When they
address
walk
that.
away, we can do what we want with it.
So, just to kind of bring it back, as we have 2 minutes left, are people okay with these changes, and are we ready for this to be up for action tonight, whether you're in support or not?
I believe so.
Yeah, might as well talk about it.
Might as well have it.
Okay.
It was a request per our Parks Board, our Public Works Department, Beartooth Trails, as well
Parks are
as,
always gonna be okay
With trees.
with trees.
So the numbers 10 and 12 refer to another document?
it's all a part of the
It
MOU.
all- It all refers to
Yep.
another document.
Well, not the first therefore, but yes. Basically, there's an amendment being made, and I would call it an addendum, but there's also, I guess it's more of an addendum.
Here we go. We know that, don't we? Sorry, in real estate, addendums and amendments are, you always question yourself.
Yep, so, regardless, we're gonna be adding these pieces to that MOU to make sure that this is included within our current agreement. That being said, for Dave, we do need to have them also sign off on this if it's being amended per their MOU.
Yeah, they will have to sign off on the MOU.
Yep.
I feel good with how you addressed it
Okay.
here, and when we update the MOU, we'll just, and to your point, they don't have to sign off on it, we can
And then
just
they don't
say
get
it's
treated.
ours.
Yep. Yeah.
I don't anticipate that'll be a problem.
I don't either. So considering this is their idea and literally just taking this specific language from their presentation. So, anywho, do you feel good that you'll be able to have Lonnie make that adjustment to the first whereas?
Oh, we'll just make it tonight, that's
Okay.
it, we'll
We'll
just
just
make
do
it
an
tonight.
amendment on it.
I'll verify it, but I'm
Okay.
dyslexic, so it's highly conceivable that I.
I have a
swap those
copy of it
numbers.
if you'd like.
And I think I actually had to retype this because she sent it to me in a PDF form that was non-editable, so.
Oh, so it might be you.
It could have been me, yes. So, also have that same issue. So, again,
Yeah.
regardless, we can make that amendment. and
Generally,
do
if you
it.
run into two dyslexic people, you end up okay.
Or it's all over the place.
Or it's really bad.
Or,
Here's the fun thing, the one that I pulled off the website wasn't signed by the mayor, but it, refers to it on the now therefore be it resolved that Creekside be dedicated as an official city park.
Hmm?
It was referring to Van Dyke, but it's
Oh.
not,
It's an edit down further.
yeah, it's,
and
It's got
again,
some
that's not the
problems.
most current MOU,
No,
so.
that's a resolution
Alright.
she's looking
Oh.
at.
yeah, it's
Your-
a resolution, kind
Gotcha.
of overrode,
Here I am
obviously,
jumping
the
and
one
taking
for
over. I'm gonna
Creekside
go back
Park.
and see.
Okay.
Just give me the word. We
We're
got-
tapping.
So, if that is everything, we obviously were not able to get to the growth policy review that will be coming up tonight at the city council meeting.
Is
And then,
Al or Jeff gonna be here tonight?
No, so tonight is, the growth policy is actually gonna be on the 24th, I think, is when action's gonna be.
Okay.
So that's when the public hearing is, we have it noticed.
yep,
But
It
that's-
hasn't been noticed?
No, it has been noticed.
Okay.
But it has to be noticed for,
30 days.
I think it's actually
A
15,
longer
but we
period.
did 30.
Yeah, 30
So,
Okay, so I'm gonna adjourn the meeting.